Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. We're live from Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, it's Love 99.5 FM in affiliates across the 16 regions of Ghana, including Swiss FM in Ho, Dreams FM Bolgatanga, and Sky FM in Sunyai. You can also download the My Joy Online app from Play Store and App Store to listen live wherever you are in the world. In this edition, medical laboratory scientists at the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital defy court order to return to work as they continue to stay away, yet again leaving patients stranded.
They are sending us back to work. Arrangements that were put in place at the moment, we are sending our samples to public and private labs for them to be run.
We're live on the ground. Also, police in the central region on the hunt for spiritualists or ritualists who allegedly aided a couple to bury their 2-year-old son alive at Breman Esikuman.
It was around 12 midnight and I heard someone was digging some pits. I saw 2 women and a man. The man was digging while one woman was carrying a child.
Parents of the boy remain in police custody. Will also take you to Asuna Maso in the Kwabre East municipality of the Ashanti region, where residents say they are terrified after 3 children went missing, were found later with their bodies mutilated. And as concerns over Ghana's debt situation soar, we'll hear from then vice presidential candidate of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, on why our mode of calculation of the debt to GDP could be problematic.
The calculation of the debt to GDP ratio used by the minister is just plain wrong and misleading.
You want to stay for analysis on that. And in sports,
Ghana's under-20 football sensation Abdul Fattah Isahaku heads to Portuguese side Sporting Lisbon on loan less than 48 hours after signing for Liverpool.
And who earns their sacrum bragging rights as winners of 2021 APSA Ashanti Regional Championship. We're live in the region for details on the grand finale, which begins in just a few hours.
This year, forget everybody. It's our year. I said, we are for the trophy.
We're live on the ground with that and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. And this is your home of bold, credible and fearless journalism. This afternoon, medical laboratory scientists at the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital have today defied a court order that directed them to call off the strike and return to work. They have in the last few weeks demanded the withdrawal of 2 medical doctors posted to the laboratory by management. The National Labour Commission on Friday secured a court order barring the lab scientists from proceeding with the intended strike action. PRO of the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, Kwame Frimpong, says the hospital is still resorting to the use of private laboratories as the scientists have refused to show up for work today. We'll hear from him shortly, but this is how the story has developed so far.
The strike by the lab scientists was sparked by the appointment of 2 physicians to the Laboratory Services Directorate at CATH. They first embarked on a sit-down strike. Several meetings with management of CATH and the ministry proved futile. It then escalated into a full-blown strike after a week.
We won't even give a timeline. Until management resolve our issues, we are not going to come to work.
Patients bore the brunt of that industrial action.
And because of the urgent need of my daughter to see the medical practitioner on Monday, I have to pay whatever amount that they ask to be paid. 80 Ghana cedis. But here at Konfanoti, it's 50 Ghana cedis.
The GMA threatened to respond in equal measure if their members are removed.
If anybody is made to forced to make a panicky decision of practicing an illegality, we will not sit aloof. We will not allow that.
The latest demand by the Ghana Medical Association as part of a number of resolutions made at its 3rd National Executive Council meeting. Its president, Dr. Frank Ankobia, called for an end to all forms of threat, harassment and assault allegedly directed at their members.
Harassment and assault directed at these laboratory physician residents and specialists should cease forthwith.
The NLC described the strike as illegal and threatened sanctions.
The strike is illegal and possibly cite them for contempt.
But the lab scientists say they will not back down.
When you are fighting for a good cause, you fear nothing. We can sacrifice today because we are thinking of our future.
The rift between the 2 health groups has intensified as the GMA threatens to take further drastic measures if the health ministry fails to fully address their concerns.
The GMA hereby serves notice that there are 4 listed resolutions, if not fully addressed by the Ministry of Health and its agencies, especially management of the various hospitals, will result in a GMA taking drastic measures that will definitely disturb the current seemingly industrial harmony and healthcare delivery throughout the country.
So that's how the story has panned out so far. We can listen to PRO of the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, Kwame Frimpong.
There's a knockback to I'm unable to make any official comments on it because management is about to meet and I'm very sure to come up with discussion. Arrangements that we put in place at the moment, we are sending our samples to public and private labs for them to be run as a way of mitigating the impact of the strike. So we are doing this for the inpatients, especially those are the emergency centers, after the emergency center, pediatric emergency unit, and then at the MBU. For the time being, just working by it requires extra efforts because now you now have to collect all the samples and then send them outside, and that's quite with regards to the arrangements.
That's the PRO of the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, Kwame Frimpong there. So the situation remains unchanged in spite of the court order secured by the National Labour Commission for them to go back to work. Nanayo Jima joins us live from the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital. Nanayo, what exactly is the situation now, as you can report?
So I've been to about 3 laboratories here at the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, and all of them are logged. They are red bands and folded and placed in front of all the laboratories. And all the places I've been so far, I'm yet to see any patients report for care from these laboratories. So the situation is unchanged. And additional information we have is that other facilities in the Kumasi metropolis, including the Mensa Hospital, are all closed. That's their laboratories are all closed.
Well, but any explanation on why the medical laboratory scientists have decided to defy the court order secured by the National Labour Commission? Have they been speaking at all?
So we've been trying to get to the leadership of the laboratory scientists here at the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital, but we are yet to get through to them. Our phone calls to them remain unanswered, but by close of day, I'm sure that we'll be able to get through with them and get to know their line and their side of the story.
I'm curious to hear how the hospital is coping with all this.
So from the information we've been picking here, patients who are seen by the doctors are asked to see laboratory technicians or scientists outside the hospital. There are a number of them dotted around the hospital. So these are the people who are now taking care of the laboratory needs of Konfanoti. And also the information we have is that the hospital itself is taking samples of people who have been admitted and sending to these laboratories for further investigation.
Okay, well, that's my colleague Nanaya Ojima there reporting from the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital. And as it stands now, it appears that the medical laboratory scientists have not called off their strike at the Konfanoti Teaching Hospital in spite of that court order secured by the National Labour Commission. Let's bring in the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Ms. Ofusu Asamoah. We're grateful for your time here on the Midday News. So, as you've heard, the court order did not work at all. They've defied it. They are still on strike. What then happens?
Well, I'm just hearing from your station, and I think Star FM, that we have refused to go to work. I have called our Kumasi office to check whether they have refused to go to work. So I'm yet to get a report from the Kumasi office. In any case, if it is true that they have refused to go to work, the consequences are clearly stated in the law. So that will be the next way forward.
And what really are the consequences at this point? Because patients are actually suffering.
For the first two lies with their employer to either terminate their employment without notice or to withhold their salaries, wages, or anything that is due them for the period within which they are failed to work and engage in this illegal strike. And then the third one lies with the commission. That is the commission to apply to the court to cite them for contempt because they have defied the court order. This is they should resume work immediately. So these are the options available.
Well, but the claim for them also is that they raised these issues with the Labour Commission over a period, but it appears that nothing was done. But you are quick to secure a court order for them to go back to work.
No, if you have an issue with the Labour Commission and there's a delay or nothing is going on, you apply to the commission. And my case was again to be, if you say nothing was going on, what does that mean? We were before the commission. At a point in time, they decided to go and have an in-house settlement or negotiation with their employers. And when they left, the next thing is for you to report to the commission that the matter is settled. The matter is not settled, so we want you to go ahead. For as long as you haven't come, the presumption of the commission is that the matter is settled. So if they couldn't settle it, what they have to do was to report to the commission, which they have failed to do. So it is not the commission's fault for which the matter may have delayed.
So how much time?
Say that nothing was done.
Okay, so how much time do they have for the law to kick in? You've outlined a number of things that could happen if they continue to defy that court order. How much time do they have for that to kick in?
Oh, the time is now. If it is established that they have really defied the court order, then the time is now.
We're grateful. That's the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission. So far, we have been unsuccessful at reaching the Komfanoche Teaching Hospital chapter of the medical laboratory scientists on why they have actually defied this court order secured by the National Labour Commission. You've heard from the Executive Secretary with the immediate effect. If they have actually defied, the law will kick in. We'll go on to some other stories now. And police in the Sekuma Odobim Brakwa in the central region are on the hunt for a ritualist who allegedly aided a man and his wife to bury their 2-year-old son alive. The couple say they were convinced by the traditional priestess that their 2-year-old child, who can neither walk nor talk, was a spirit child and had to be killed. They've been arrested. Richard Kujonyaka has more in the following report.
At midnight, the couple, Paul Adoba and Mamiata, and the fetish priestess dug a pit and buried the 2-year-old alive. Abubakar Mohammed is a tenant of the couple. He suspected something was not right and so woke up to the surreptitious movement of the people at night. I saw them carrying the child to where the pit is being dug. It was around 12 midnight and I heard someone was digging some pit. It was strange, so I got up to close my window. I saw 2 women and a man. The man was digging while one woman was carrying a child. I was alone and a bit afraid, and so I couldn't step out. It was during that time that the man left the scene and came to the yard in our compound. It was my landlord, and so I asked him, "What on earth were you doing at this time behind the house?" He replied, he came to perform some rites. He further explained that his child was not well and a fetish priestess said they needed to perform some rituals for the child. The chief of Breman Brakwa, Nana Kofi Hamed, says the community is extremely surprised by the acts of the couple. Even though they have left the 2 in the hands of the police, some rites ought to be performed. The couple and the priestess came to bury the child alive, and so those who suspected it reported it to the police. I was here in the evening when the relatives of the couple came that this was what has happened, and so they were begging for forgiveness. I said no, it's a huge crime that ought not to be entertained. I said this is never done. Even when day-old children die, they are not buried like that, let alone burying a child alive. What's so grievous is that they buried this child close to the mainstream we all depend on. The community is stunned by the act of the 3 and want the police to ensure that justice takes its course. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejonyaku, Breman Brakwa.
Well, police say they are on the heels of a third suspect. DSP Irene Opon speaks for the police in the central region.
Information gathered by police indicate that the suspect, Paul Adobao, was instructed by one prophetess, Ama Nkansa of Gumwa Eshiem, who told him that the child, who has never walked since birth, was a spiritual child and has to be sent back to the river god. Hence, the child was buried alive. Police wants to use this opportunity to appeal to the general public that the said prophetess is on the run and anybody who have information about her whereabouts to contact the nearest police station for her to be arrested to assist us with investigations.
That's DSP Irene Opon, PRO for the Central Region Police. I'll take you to the Ashanti region now. And little Kwekuteria was found dead with injuries from nail stabs to his head and belly a day after he went missing at Asunamaso in the Kwabre East municipality. 3 months on, mother of the 1.5-year-old boy is crying for justice. Little Teria is the third child to be killed in the past 3 months in the Ashanti region. Residents now believe a network of criminals have invaded the community and killing children for rituals. Erastus Asaridon reports from Asunamaso.
Little Teria enjoyed playing with his twin siblings in front of their home here at Asunamaso. It's been 3 months since he was abducted and murdered. The pain of the loss remains fresh on the mind of his mother, 35-year-old Sarah Apia.
We went to radio stations and information centers to report of our missing child.
The body of little Kwekuteria was found with his head and belly riddled with nails a day after he went missing. Another boy is missing, this time a 19-year-old student of Aguna Senior High School. It's been 2 weeks since Emmanuel Nyameche Jesse, also known as Koima, went missing. His father, Anthony Kwajo Jesse, sent him to pick a cloth from neighboring Intonso and has since not been found.
He has not been seen since. I'm urging the public to help me find him.
The Asunamaso police say investigations are yet to produce any arrests in both cases.
Erastus Asaridonko's report from Asunamaso. I'll take you to the Volta region now. More than 700 persons have been displaced following tidal waves there, which blew their homes away. Correspondent Ivy Setoji has been following the story for us. She joins us on the line. Ivy, paint a picture of what the true situation is there.
Well, as I think the situation is a little bit calm, but as of Friday, Thursday and Friday, the people were displaced or hit by the tidal waves again. Houses were submerged into the sea, and the people are homeless. Most of them are depending on families, especially where to put their heads. So right now, what the people are saying is they want government to do something about their relocation side and stop the source company from continuing with their construction, whatever they are doing there, so that they can do some process there for them to move in, because most of them are homeless. But for now, as of today, the situation is calm.
But what have authorities been telling you? Because the residents of Agaveji have been speaking to you about the situation.
Yes,
have you heard from authorities?
I spoke with the MC on phone, Eliot Agbeno. He said that he has asked the company to stop whatever project they are doing, and they are rather constructing a road there. And the government is doing its possible best to make sure that these people get some things to put up at the other side, that's the high side of the lagoon, so that they can rest their heads for now, as government looks at what they can do. And also they are going to continue with the defense war.
That's my colleague Ivy Setoji reporting from Agaveji in the Volta region. Now, Ghana's public debt stock rose by 13 billion cedis to hit 304.6 billion in March 2021. Now, this, according to the latest Bank of Ghana summary of economic and financial data, is equivalent to 70.2% of GDP, lower than the 76.1% registered in December 2020. There are, however, concerns about this mode of calculating our debt to GDP, which makes the figure appear smaller than it is in reality. Well, these concerns were first echoed by then vice presidential candidate of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in September 2016. Listen.
The calculation of the debt to GDP ratio used by the minister is just plain wrong and misleading. The government has taken the total debt stock in May 2016 and divided it by the projected GDP in December 2016 to arrive at the debt to GDP ratio of 63%. This is statistical gimmickry. If you ask the minister how he achieved this dramatic reduction in the debt to GDP ratio, ratio in either January 2016 or May 2016, he will be unable to tell you. All that has happened is that he has used a higher projected GDP number to do the calculation. We know what the GDP was at the end of the first quarter.
So that's Dr. Baumia there speaking in September 2016. My colleague Winston Namwa joins me in studio with some more analysis on this. Winston, first, put this in perspective for us. Was the Vice President right to have suggested that the mode of calculation of the debt to GDP ratio was wrong?
Well, so if you compare your, debt to a projected end-of-year GDP, it makes you have a lower ratio. And in our case, we know that our projected GDP for 2021 is 433 billion. Now, currently, our debt is 304 billion. Now, this is expected to rise to 332 billion per our 2021 budget, and that will be around 76.67% of the end-of-year GDP. I know the current 70.2. The IMF also projects our debt to GDP to be about 81.5%. So, based on this, to say that our current debt to GDP ratio is 70.2% will be misleading, MFR.
But it appears the way we calculate it, even under this government, has not changed, right?
It hasn't changed from the way it was calculated under the previous administration. It's been the same.
By the way, Winston, though, why is the debt to GDP ratio that important?
Well, it's important because it's a gauge of your ability to pay off your debt. And what it also means is that, look, a higher ratio means the country is not producing much to pay the debts that the country owes. However, a low ratio means there's a lot of economic output to pay off your debts. And a high rate, what that would do to your economy is that if you have a higher debt to GDP ratio, the possibility of defaulting in the payment of your debt is high. And so it will translate to higher interest rates.
Thank you very much. Winston Amwa is host of the Super Morning Show. This is the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Our top stories: medical laboratory scientists at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital defy a court order to return to work as they continue to stay away yet again, leaving patients stranded. We've been hearing from the National Labour Commission, who says they will start triggering processes according to the law that would lead to their sacking also. And then also we have sports, and then later, who ends the Osekum bragging rights as winners of 2021 APSA Ashanti Regional Championship. We are live in the region for details of the grand finale, which begins in just a few hours.
This year, forget everybody. It's our year. I said, we aim for the trophy.
This bulletin is live in the Volta region on Jubilee Radio Keta, Volta Premier and Kekali Radio in Ho, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi, Pando FM in Pando, Fafa Radio in Joje, Radio Hogba in Angloga, Klenam Radio Bato, Victory FM Aplao. In the Eastern region, we're on K-Poly Radio in Kofrodia. In the Northern region, we're on Bishara Radio, Radio 123 and Radio Justice in Tamale. And in Savannah region, we're on Inkelege FM in Bole. In the Upper East region, we're live on A1 Radio and Dreams FM in Bogatanga and Radio Fumbese in Fumbese. In Upper West, we're live on Radio Sonmale in Wa, Radio Freed in Nandom, Radio Wa in Wa, and Bolu FM in Bolu. In the Bono East region, we're on Gaskia FM in Techiman. In Bono region, we're on Sky FM and Parrot FM in Sunyai. Central region, we're live on ATL FM in Cape Coast. And in the Western region, we're on Radio Max in Takrady.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Time for sports. Hansman Sando.
Were you excited on Saturday night?
No, I'm not. I'm still not excited.
You're one of us.
How can Chelsea
win? I'm sure
win?
was excited.
Yeah,
Ghana attacker Abdul Fattah Issahaku is headed to Portugal for a loan spell with Sporting Lisbon. The deal with the Portuguese side follows Issahaku's 5-year deal with English giants Liverpool, which was agreed on Saturday evening. The loan deal between the three parties has no certain time limit, with Liverpool indicating the player will undergo development in Portugal until he can play for the Reds in the English Premier League. And the player is expected to join the Black Stars of Ghana for upcoming friendlies against Morocco and South Africa. Speaking of which, head coach of the senior national team, the Black Stars, Siki Akono, has underlined the importance of those two friendlies and the need for the Black Stars to play good football.
I made it clear that we now have to move on from where we are to a situation where we'll find the way we play, our philosophy, the style of play in order, and therefore it's meant that we keep the squad we have so that we can, get on with what we're doing, and so that it will be appropriate. Anyway, I think you also want to see us play a very good football, and it will not just come as easy.
You heard from head coach of the senior national team, the Black Stars, CK Akono Emefo.
Thank you very much, Hans. Enjoy the rest of the day. Now, Human Rights Division of the High Court in Accra is due to deliver judgment today on the case brought before it by a Rastafarian student. Tyrone Magai was denied admission by the Achimota School over his failure to trim his dreadlocks, a hairstyle the school says violates its rules. My colleague Kwekwa Sante was in court for us. He joins us in studio. Kwekwa, what transpired in court?
So the judgment was expected to be rendered at 9 a.m. this morning, but the information came in that the judge would deliver her judgment at 2 p.m. today, and so we would see whether or not the dream of these two Rastafarian students to attend Achimota School will be granted by the Accra High Court or it will be dashed. And so this has been going on in the court since 19th March when Achimota School refused to admit these students. But today, the children, the father of these children says they are very confident that the court will actually rule in their favor.
Okay, well, that's my colleague Kwekwa Sante. We wait for that judgment. And Executive Director with the West African Network for Peace Building is warning Mali it may face further isolation and sanction if the military junta fails to hand over power to an interim civilian head within days. An extraordinary summit called by President Akufo-Addo, who doubles as chairman of ECOWAS, suspended Mali and warned of further sanctions if demands of the summit are not met. My colleague Elton Broby was at the summit. Here's his report.
The 10-point resolution called for the immediate and unconditional release of Mali's transitional president Bando and Prime Minister Mukhtar Kwani and a new civilian prime minister nominated immediately. Also, the regional body demanded a new inclusive government should be formed to proceed with the transition program. The communique also reiterates the earlier decision that ahead of the transition, the vice president and the prime minister of the transition should not, under any circumstances, be candidates for the forthcoming presidential elections. Ghana's Foreign Minister Shirley Ayokoboshe is hopeful Mali will respect the February 2022 deadline for a return to constitutional rule.
One of the decisions of the heads of state is that they should ensure that in the next few days there is a civilian prime minister who will form a government,
That's the Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayokoboshe there, ending Elton John Broby's report. Meanwhile, Executive Director of the West African Network for Peace Building, Chukwuemeka Eze, is warning of dire consequences for Mali.
That they are on their own, and if they do not conform to the ECOWAS set-down rules and procedures, especially relating to the democracy and good governance protocol, then they cannot continue to enjoy being part of the community. And if you look at it, ECOWAS is also being supported by other intergovernmental organizations, including the African Union and the United Nations. What continues to be the challenge is some of the shadow actors, some of the external influence that continue to digress the efforts of ECOWAS in this direction. You can already be sure that the African Union is going to endorse the position of ECOWAS.
That's Chukwuemeka Eze with One App.
Where's this confidence coming from?
After 8 days of competition, the battle for who rules the Ashanti region in the National Science and Maths Quiz in its final lap. 3 schools will be seeking to join Presec Legon, Infansipim School, Tamasco, Nkranza, SHTS, and Ketasco as colleague champions in their respective regions. Already, Opoku School has booked a spot in the grand finale after beating St. Louis Girls, Sims SHS, and Kumasi Anglican SHS in the first of 2 semi-final contests. But the arrivals at Prempeh College, who scored 80 points in their qualifier, say OWAS is in for a beating in the finals.
Hope you've seen the way I'm laughing. You see the way I'm laughing. This year, forget everybody. It's our year. I said, we aim for the trophy. This year, nobody. The other schools. I'm just telling the other schools. They should go and prepare for the WASI. They should go and prepare for the WASI. Because they are not in the competition. No, they are not in it. They should go and prepare for the WASI.
People can brag, and that's some students of Prempeh College. They're interacting with Manuel Crantin. There's another competition in the Ashanti region. There's the Love FM High School debates. We all look forward to that. Erastus Osaridonko joins me on the line. Erastus, it's happening. Tell us more about it.
is happening live, and when you come to the Christian Service University College auditorium, it is brimming with confidence from the students who are now gathering and taking their seats for the first contest to begin. And that contest is between the first winners of the first edition of the high school debate, TI Ahmadiyya Senior High School and Adventist Girls Senior High School. The second contest will be between the current prevailing champions, St. Jerome Senior High School and Efia Kubiampim Girls Senior High School. So it's going to be fantastic today as the orators assemble in Kumasi.
Thank you very much, Irasa Sasari Donko. We look forward to that. We'll be monitoring it. And there's a lady in the studio with some color here.
Blue is the color and football is the game.
I'll put off your microphone. What's in showbiz?
And in showbiz, ever wondered why television personality KSM is called the king of comedy? While he's been telling us on Showbiz A to Z.
A play has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has characters.
Yeah.
It has a climax. It has a conflict.
Yes,
a
conflict.
resolution.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. But because I did it as a one-man performance, now being Datsun.
Yeah.
He used to be showbiz.
Yeah, graphic showbiz editor.
You know, he wrote a brilliant review of the thing, and he called me king of comedy in that review. And, you know, so I did Politically Incorrect.
Yeah.
And I think what that show did was, I think that was the first time Ghanaians realized, or more, because I brought that out of him.
Yeah.
I pushed him until he got to a part where he actually took part in the play.
So he was speaking about former President J.J. Rawlings there. Ose Chelsea.
How much did you win in the bet?
Midi betika mikoto asasi we islogon.
Thank you very much, Mapitso. And stories you've been talking about and reading on myjoyonline.com. The judge who kept his wife as his inmate and threw her food across the floor is Sikuma Odobimbrakwa police arrest couple for allegedly burying son alive. And Mali suspended from ECOWAS. Sule Muntari loses mother Hajia Kande. And that's it for the midday news here on Joy 99.7 FM. Wisdom episode 6 is up next on Living Word with Pastor Mensah Otabil. I am MF Apau. Have a good afternoon.
Imagine strutting into the most anticipated wedding of the year. Only to